All right, what's up, guys? So, we're going to do something very, very special today, okay? So, once upon a time, 7 months ago to be exact, I did a video called Vaping Batteries Explained and What to Buy, okay? It was a very different time. It was when I first started out, and after a lot of different, comments, responses, um, I've decided that yeah, absolutely, it's time to do an update video. So that's what we're going to do. But not just an update video. This video is going to be very special. It's going to be very informative, and it's going to be very controversial. So you really want to stay for the whole thing. Okay, we're going to go back to our roots, and I guarantee you guys, this video is going to be the Pegasus that you guys have grown to love. Okay, so here we go. When we talk about different kinds of batteries and stuff like that, all right, I have a whole ton of things pulled up over here because there's so much to go through, all right? So I'm going to go through a special battery page right here, okay? And I'm going to do my best to keep the links in the description. And if I don't do it, then at least you can see the links right here, okay? So first, we're going to talk about different kinds of batteries. There's only a couple of batteries that really apply to us vapors, all right? And there's a couple of batteries that you guys should be aware about, right? So I assume that you have watched the first video, and then I'm going to put a link to this video so that it's the update video so that you can see both. I'm not going to repeat too much of what was in the past, but after you watch that one and then you watch this one, you're going to get like the full grasp of what's going on with batteries and vaping. All right. So two batteries. All right. Is that it applies to us vapors the most, right? One is called manganese batteries, and the other one is called cobalt batteries. Okay. So obviously this video is increasingly nerdier from the one before. The third battery is going to be called the LiFePO battery, okay? LiFePO. Well, I have said this before, okay, that the LiFePO batteries over here, okay, is the lithium iron phosphate one. Fe comes from the Latin term ferrum, that means iron. Okay, so what should we know first? There are things called cobalt batteries. Okay, so what is the difference between cobalt batteries and manganese batteries? Well, you've probably heard the term being thrown around constantly: IMR, IMR, IMR. Get IMR batteries. Okay, so what is IMR? It's because they got lazy with the whole capital and little like whatever. So the little L kind of looks like an I, and that's where you get IMR. It's not IMR, it's actually LMR, lithium manganese rechargeable batteries, okay? Now, the manganese ones are the ones that's going to be high drain, has the high drain ability, right? So what happens is that when you put those things into your different kinds of PVs, whether it's a mechanical device or it's the regulated devices, the newer regulated devices, okay, that is able to crank up to 20 watts, 30 watts, 50 watts, 100 watts, all right, it is all recommended that you use the high drain IMR batteries because those are the batteries that is going to be able to keep up with that kind of output that's necessary to keep up with the builds that you put inside or your PV that's cranked up so high, okay. For instance, the mechanical mods, right? Obviously, when we build down very, very low ohms, okay? I'm not talking about like, like zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.6 or I mean really low. Once it gets past the 0.20, 1.9, 0.09, okay? Uh, we definitely want to use the IMR batteries, the high drain batteries, because they have the amp capacity to handle and then stay safe. All right. So also as well as is that IMR batteries are known as safe chemistry batteries, meaning that if you're using it up to it's like when you're really stressing the battery doesn't explode. Instead, it vents. So you definitely want to get different kinds of PVs, whether it's regulated or unregulated, like mechanical mods that has proper venting in them, so that it's not going to blow up on you. All right, so the cobalt batteries, okay, has greater life, and the manganese batteries has greater amperage. Well, it's the best of it's one of each. Okay, you can't have both. It's really hard to get huge life and huge amperage at the same time. Usually, what happens is that if you have a long life battery, then you usually have lower rating of the amperage. If you have, and then vice versa, right? If you have a very high rating amperage, then you probably have low milliamps. So the milliamp hours is basically the life of the battery. Okay, so for you guys out there who are using the simple PVs, okay, the SVDs, the BAMOs, the SIDs, the lava tubes, all those earlier China mods, okay, that basically crank up no further than 15 watts. Those are the things that you could go ahead and then get, like, the Panasonic batteries, okay, the Panasonic NCR 18650B, those different types. Let me pull that up for you real quick over here, right? So basically they're the Panasonic 18650 series, okay? They come in like all sorts of different types. There are these green batteries, okay? And what happens is that, like, when you put them inside of the VAMOs, the SIDs, the SVDs or whatnot, okay, those China mods, they don't require IMR specific batteries, okay? It's not like a ProVary where it requires IMR specific because that's what's recommended in it. Plus, it needs to be a button top battery. So these things, whether it's a button top or a flat top or whatever, you just have to basically check with your manual, okay? Now, the simple regulated devices, you really don't need to worry about amperage or anything like that, because if at any time something is no good, it's protected in itself, so it will not fire. So you don't have to worry about, like, oh, is my battery protected or it's not protected or whatever, because your SVD, your VAMO, your SID, your lava tube, your, whatever, it is a protected device itself. It already offers its own protection. So uh, basically you could treat it like antivirus programs. It's like, how many do you need? You don't need both McAfee and a Norton and you know what I mean? Of course, sometimes it's good, but you really don't need that much when it comes to this. All you need is one protection level, and if it's okay, it will fire. If it's not okay, simply it just won't fire. Okay. All right. So moving on, right? When we talk about like these IMR batteries, right? Let's get down to like the simplest things, right? Which is basically, what do I recommend? Right now, as far as the IMR stuff is concerned, right? Basically just the purple eFest stuff, okay? Purple eFest, all right? This one. Now this one comes in two versions, okay? You could get this in flat top, and you could search around, and you could also get this in button top as well, okay? Flat top more common than the button top. Now, what is the difference between the flat top and the button top, you ask, okay? It's just what fits better in certain PVs. Okay, when we say PVs, it could be the mech mods, it could be like, in your other vaporizers that are regulated or non-regulated. It doesn't matter. It may or may not fit better depending on, like, just that little bit more. Like, if I had to do an example off of the top of my head, right? A button top battery fits better in a Chi-Yu as opposed to a Nemesis would. A Nemesis could fit either or, but a flat top battery is just perfectly fine. While in a Chi-Yu, like, you probably just that little extra length or whatever is going to make that, adjustability, the pin, the button rattle, the all that just a little bit better. Okay. All right. So check with your mods and stuff. Because it's very difficult to just throw out random batteries to me and then just say, Peg, is this good? Is that good? Is this good? Is that good? The best that I could do for you guys is always recommend for you, like, what is the best batteries out there, okay? So for your SVD, SIDs, BAMOs, blah, 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 all that stuff, all those China mods, right? Just go with, like, the Panasonic NCR series, okay? It doesn't matter if it's 18650B or the A or the PF or whatever it is, okay? Because roughly about like 3,400 milliamps, that is what you're really purchasing the battery for, and that's really what you're getting. Everything else will be taken care of by the PV itself, okay? Now, when you're dealing with other things, like for you guys out there with like all the mechanical devices, okay, that's when you want to turn over to like the purple eFest and whatnot. Okay, now, why am I saying purple eFest and I'm not saying Sony VTC5? This is the really controversial part, okay? Because it's not real. Because the Sony VTC5 is not a real battery. You guys are going to be like, attacking me on this, but like, look, I'll prove it to you guys. few things, right? Number one, if you actually went to the Panasonic Japanese website, okay, and then I don't know, we put in like 18650 like that real quick, okay, you will actually get 18650 results, and it says, look, NCR 18650, blah 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 blah, whatever. These things are real. They exist. You know what I mean? Okay, if you went over to like um, 18650 on the Japanese Sony website or whatever, they'll say, did you mean 18250? And they're talking about other models of different things, meaning, right, that like Sony has never made this stuff. It's not there. It's not real. Okay, so what is the next best thing? The next best thing is, to go over to the China Sony website, okay? And then when you click on this, it will show you, all right, that the only two 18650 and the 26650 batteries regarding the Sony stuff, of the V and the VT or whatever, this is what they were supposed to look like. I don't know what is all that green stuff that's being out there, okay? And they come in all sorts of different prices, all right? I'll get into that in a second. So basically 18650 V 1600 mAh, right? What does this remind you of? This reminds you of back then where we had like the VTC3 battery, right? But this was like, all this was released back in 2005. Man, this is like really old, really long time ago. And over here, right, this is what the max output is. And for the 18650V, it's only 10 amps, and the 26650 is 50 amps, right? But these are like, different kinds of claims from, the Sony website. That's just completely something different, all right? And I'll explain to you guys why in a second. Regarding different battery sizes or whatever, okay, it has always been the same thing in history, repeating itself over and over again, in the sense that, like, if you want more milliamp hours, you're going to get less amps. If you want more amps, you're going to get less milliamp hours, okay? So a balanced battery, right, would be like the purple EFES 26650, okay? Because over here, it says, right, specifically that like the maximum discharge current is 32 amps, and then the pulse is 64 amps. Keep in mind that till this day, it is still not properly defined what is standard pulse, okay? Because different companies will also say different things regarding the pulse. Certain companies will tell you that, like, oh, our pulse is 10 seconds, while another company will tell you our pulse is 5 seconds. So that's a really iffy thing. And then that changes like all the numbers all around, because whatever you read right here, you can't just take it for what it is and move on with life. They mean different things. 64 amps of 5 seconds and 64 amps of 10 seconds is not the same thing. You know what I mean? Regarding like different batteries and how hard they hit, can you feel the difference or whatever, generally this is exactly what it is, okay? Had you purposely taken like a CGR battery, right, like a Cobalt battery that doesn't have that many amps into it, like let's say the discharge rate was only like 6 amps or something like that, right, and we went ahead and we built a coil that could handle 6 amps no problem, but then we also had a 30 amp battery, and then we built something that, like, it could just handle 6 amps, is more than enough, right? If we fired both of them, the 30 amp battery will feel, like it's kicking harder than the other battery is, okay? And that's exactly what the high drain does. So when it comes to like, these 32, these 64s, things like that, okay, be very careful all the time, right, of what exactly is the maximum discharge current and then the pulse current. So when it says the pulse current, I guess we could go ahead and assume that this is going to be like the continuous current, right? Hopefully, right? And that is basically like the biggest gripe about like all the new batteries that come out, okay? As far as, because as technology comes out, right, we need like a little bit of history and using it and whatever for it to go by before we could go ahead and confirm, whether something's legit or something's not legit, right? So the purple EFES right now, right, I could tell you from my heart, okay, that the 35 amp IMR ones, okay, these things are legit batteries. You're gonna get what you paid for. You're gonna get the numbers that you actually paid for and stuff, right? The same thing, why I still recommend the NCR batteries, the Panasonic, because the 3,400 milliamps, you actually will get what you pay for, you know, roughly around there, as opposed to other batteries out there, like, you know, the Trust Fire and like the Fandy Fire, you know, all the stuff that says like 4,000 milliamps, etc., etc., etc. Many times people have reported ended up getting like, you know, 1,200, 2,000 at best, something, you know, just not as promised as it is. You just random numbers being slapped on a battery. Okay, so a couple of you guys are big MNKE fans out there. Okay, okay, I gotta since this is an update video, I gotta tell you what's going on. See, when I first started this show, when I first started everything, okay, I was just a numbers guy. All right, I wasn't this deep into the game as I am now, where, like, you know, I speak with these manufacturers directly. I actually do a lot of investigative reporting so that I could come back and then really talk to you guys about things that you didn't know. So when it comes to the MNKE stuff, right, it's rather disappointing, because what happens is that, like, there's too many factories out there making MNKEs. He's making it, he's making it, he's making it, and when you notice, if you have a whole bunch of friends that has MNKE batteries and stuff, you will notice, right, it has nothing to do with the batch. Everybody's orange is a different color. People are going to have darker orange, some people are going to have lighter orange colors. And this is exactly what's going on, regardless if it's 18650 or 26650. Now, here's something else very disturbing that let me show you, right? If you went ahead and did what I did, which is, you know, just Google MNKE 26650 batteries, and then, you know, you just go ahead and then click a couple of these over here, right? What you're going to get is a whole bunch of different kinds of stats. So over here, it says like 4,000 milliamp hours, right? 4,000 milliamp hours, and then like what is the ratings of these things? Well, the maximum continuous is 20, and then the instantaneous discharge current is 60. What does that mean, this instantaneous discharge current? That probably means the pulse, but again, what does that pulse mean? Does that pulse mean like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds? We don't actually know. Now, if you go over here, right, then the MNK on this one is 3,500, right, and then we have a 20 and 60 over here, and then over here it's like it's another 2060, but this is a 4,000, and then over here, you know, there's a 2060 30, and then there's a couple. I found a couple of other websites that also show 30, and then I've seen, like, you know, 4,500, 3,000. The point is that, like, the numbers are all over the place, and they're all over the place because there's too many factories making them all at the same time, and it's just, I don't know, you know what I mean? There's not, I can't uh just you know, like, solidly recommend something to you guys, because whatever you've read out there in like other people's Facebooks and things like that of their opinions, be like, well, I thought the MKEs were better than Sony's. It depends which one you got, because they all say MNKE. That is the problem. So for me, I kind of like want to just like completely stay away from that stuff, right? Another thing, moving on to, like, you know, larger batteries with the 26650 stuff, right? Let me show you like some of the things that I found over here, okay, regarding the Sony battery. So this is all the craze right now, right? 50 amps of the Sony battery, 26650. Let's shove this thing in there, and what happens is that, like, you know, most of everything that you find, okay, is just going to go ahead and slap on these numbers. Now, I've spoken to many of these factories, and I said to them, I'm like, well, where do you get these numbers? And they're like, well, we tested, we have these numbers. So basically, it's I said so. Over here it says, right, maximum rated continuous discharging current 50 amps. Okay, so you're very content giving me the maximum continuous discharging rate. So what is the pulse? Sorry? No? No? Nobody's saying anything about what the pulse is. The same thing over here. It says maximum discharge current rating is 50 amps, but nobody's saying exactly what the pulse is, right? And that bothers me a lot. But I did find this other website over here with Vineyard Vapes, all right? And then what they did is that, like, you know, they went ahead and then, you know, put it on the graph, and then what they ended up getting was that it's 26 amps continuous discharge and 52 amps pulse discharge. Okay, and then this is the different kind of heats that it's at. But I don't know about you guys, right? But for me, I'm a lot more comfortable operating at nominal voltages at constant ratings and stuff, because I'm not looking to stress the battery. I'm looking to tweak a comfortable vape and using the right battery to help me get there. I'm not trying to push my limits exactly, right? So uh, at the moment, right, different mods that come out, the Hades, the Big Nasty, the Chiyu Bacon, all these the big stingrays and stuff like that. I've constantly told everybody to just hold on it. Okay, just hold off. Not yet. All right, because I don't believe that these things are being powered properly. Because when you think about it, look, um, if this is exactly what the case is, right? 2,600 milliamp hours, and then you only get 26 continuous discharge and then 52 pulse. But what does the Sony BTC promise us? The BTC 5 promises you 2,600 and then 30 amp continuous and then 60 amp pulse. So that's better than this thing, isn't it? I mean, according to this chart. But then according to this chart, it's feeding you different information, and I really don't like that. Okay, because you will find a lot of MNKE suppliers all saying like, oh, it's rated at 60 amps, but 60 what? Is it 60 continuous? Is it 60 pulse? Well, what are you talking about, right? And they're very, very murky, like unclear about it, and that's really what you have to be careful of. Now, here's another thing that I wanted to point out, right? 722 mod. Okay, so a lot of you guys have this mod and are very happy with it. What I want to point out is that like using an 26650 IMR battery for this device, that's what they recommend. Says we recommend over here, right? So what is my point about this? My point is that like whether you are going to be using a 26650 mechanical mod or you are going to be using like one of the cheapest, most simple 26650 regulated devices, they're all asking you to please use IMR batteries. Why? Because when I look at the voltage, the ability to crank up, you know, uh, I agree. I understand. I understand what they're trying to say. In the sense that like, please use IMR batteries because this device can crank stuff up this high. So without an IMR battery, probably no good. You see what I'm saying? So if that is the case, basically, 26650 section, Cobalt batteries are kind of pointless, aren't they? Because it's not like like what we covered earlier on with the SID, the Lava Tube, the BAMO, blah 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 blah. The simpler China mods that don't go beyond 15 watts, right? And they don't crank beyond like 6 volts at best. So therefore, you don't actually have to use an IMR battery. You could use a non-IMR battery, but as far as the 26650 realm goes, I don't see any room whatsoever. Okay, so I also have pulled up over here, I believe, I can't remember where it was, but there is another battery which is the CGR battery with the Panasonic stuff. Okay, so generally Panasonic seems to like make decent batteries, etc., right? But the same thing, if you go over and like try to search the history of like Panasonic, whether it's the Japan site or Panasonic the China site or whatever, you won't find any information on these particular models. Okay, so what is really going on with China regarding the VTC5? Because earlier I said that the VTC5 doesn't actually exist. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys something really controversial right here. Okay, so this is Smoke Company. Okay, Smoke Tech. You guys know what Smoke Tech is. Smoke Tech are the people who make the the Smoke Tech Magneto, right? Okay, so these guys are very popular, right? So they asked me, or because I'm starting the web store, right? Uh, do you need a VTC5 battery for now? And then I said, well, how much for your VTC5? And they're like $9 and 30 per piece. And I wrote, I'm sorry, you want $9.30 USD for a single VTC5? And she said yes. And she's like, well, right now, we had a stock of 500 pieces and we just sold out right now. And then I'm like, why so much? Please explain. Like, I don't believe that you sold 500 pieces for $9.30 unless not in the US, you know what I mean? Some other country, because there's no way you got it from the US. Well, they said that they import it, right? And then, you know, uh, the, and then they try to confirm with me that, like, yes, we buy it from Sony. And then it came on as like, I was like, yeah, but the thing is that, like, it's not even like really from Japanese. Well, she's like, well, it's not from China either. uh, Sorry if I'm rambling on a little bit. Okay, so I said to her, I'm like, hey, is there any way that you could prove this? Because I showed her a link from my friends at Fluid Vapes. Okay, because remember we did the shopping episode with the Fluid Vapes. All right, so if you go over the Fluids, you could get this for like $10, and then using a Pegasus coupon, you could like reduce the price even further. Okay, and then she tried to give me a whole thing about, like, how Apple products are made in China. Okay, look, China stuff has a very bad rep, okay? But true, a lot of Apple iPads, whatever, is like all made in, in China and whatnot. But that's like a special deal. That's like a special thing, okay? That's not what you guys think it is. All right. So, anyways, the point, right, is that, like, where is it over here? Finally, right? Um, I'm like, that's not the point. You said yours is from Japan. This is important to me, and also to the customer. And then she goes, I am not sure where we got it. All right. So earlier over here, you can see that she tried to forward a file to me real quick. Okay, like over here. So what happens is that, like, I want to show you guys what she ended up forwarding to me. Okay, so here we go. This is the document saying that, like, okay, it says, of course, obviously, you guys are not able to read this. It says, right, my company here for, like, between the two companies involved, right, is that, like, I'm selling, Foraker company is selling, authentic US 18650 VTC batteries, Sony, to said party. Blah 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 blah, whatever, right? And then, for distribution. And then the sincerely blah blah blah, whatever, from Foraker company, and the stamp is also an approval from Foraker company. So there's nothing Sony on this fucking piece of paper. Okay, it's these people approving themselves. Dude, I have a company. I could stamp myself anytime I want to. That doesn't mean anything. And furthermore, right? Smoke is not even like mentioned in this little paper over here, right? So I said to him, right, I'm like, Tina, do you believe in authentic Chinese Sony? You know what I mean? The proof you showed me is not even Japanese, and the stamp of approval is from Foraker and not Sony. This is a proof statement between two Chinese companies, and smoke is not even mentioned. Also, this proof is for Sony VTC 4s, not even 5s. Nobody wants the 4 anymore. Look, let's double check over here. This thing is for Sony VTC 4. So, after, sitting here and, a couple of ching-chong-chong-chongs and whatever, this is just quite laughable. It's just of what's going on, okay? Sony VTC batteries are not real. That's at the end of it. Now, before you guys go ahead and attack me about this, okay, go ahead and do the research yourself. I guarantee you that you will not find any, like, Japan BTC, like, you know what I mean? There's no relation to these two, okay? What happened was this. What actually happened was this, okay? There is another company that once upon a time subcontracted out by Sony, did some work for them, etc., and now released some batteries and continue to say, well, they're Sony batteries because we've made stuff for Sony in the past, so why not just continuously, continue and call them Sonys? And that's exactly what's going on. So if you guys were some kind of a vendor or whatever, right, and then you went around to, like, different kind of, like, China factories or whatnot, you will find the Sony battery, being sold for anywhere between $5 all the way to $9. So what is going on? That means like something is authentic and something is not? No, absolutely not. You know, um, you're going to see all sorts of stickers. You're going to see all sorts of different shades of Sony's. And what I really want to tell you guys is that like they're not actually Sony. Does that mean that they're bad or they're no good or anything like that? Same thing goes for the M&K. Same thing goes for every single one of these batteries. Okay. There's also another story about AW batteries that like the actual AW company has closed its doors many years ago, and a lot of factories have continued wrapping batteries in red and calling them AW batteries, where basically still promising the same specs. Because many of the battery chemistries have improved, uh, yeah, man, they're actually better than what the old AWs used to be. So this was in a strange letter that I read once upon a time before. But right, Fluid Vapes over here, they sell this one, and then what else do they sell? They also sell the let me see, batteries real quick. So they have this one, and then they have the green ones over here, right? Right. So 18650. Well, I'm not promoting for Fluid Vapes. The point of this thing, right, is that like uh whatever is promised over here, okay, if you have the multimeter, if you have the right tools and stuff to go ahead and test the one that you happen to have, and everything is working good and everything is legit, great. You see what I'm saying? The thing is that like you could get some kind of BS. You could end up with some kind of nonsense or whatever, and that's why I'm a little bit staying away from the Sony VTC5 stuff. Okay. Plus, a couple of people have said before that like compared to this, the VTC5 compared to the VTC4, the VTC5 seems a little bit unstable compared to the 4 was, because they try to squeeze out more milliamps within the same allowable amperage. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's like some kind of chemistry tweak inside that is just like borderline, And so basically the point of this video as an update, okay, as far as 18650 batteries goes, I definitely, I can recommend Purple E-Fest to you guys, right? But as far as all the other batteries go, right, the M&Ks and all the other popular things, whatnot, the numbers are all over the place right now, and you guys just gonna have to subscribe to the channel, and when I get new information on it, you know what I mean, I will do more digging. I will do more and more investigating with like different kinds, and interviewing the sellers themselves to try to like get a bottom line, a final answer with stuff, because right now the proof that I'm getting about Japanese batteries in Chinese writing, like, that's like I don't buy it, and I don't think that you guys should either. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. All right, I'm sorry that it was so long, but there was just so much to know and so much junk that's going on in vape world right now, right? So again, guys, always, 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 right? Question everything, do your homework, and take care.